On September 9th, 2005, Mary Deya arrived at the Nairobi hospital with an infant. She told doctors that she had given birth to her son in a taxi on her way to the hospital. The doctors rushed to assist her, but they soon found out that this was not an ordinary case. Doctors examining her were puzzled to find no signs of delivery. Regardless, Mary insisted that she be admitted for maternity care, but said that she had no money. The Nairobi hospital referred her to the Kenyatta National Hospital. When she and the baby arrived, the doctors examining her also found that Mary showed no signs of delivery, no signs of lactation, and there was no evidence of tearing or changes to her birth canal. The most puzzling thing was that Mary Deya appeared to be around 50 years old. The doctors and nurses at Kenyatta Hospital sensed that something was very wrong. The hospital detained the infant and called the police. Further investigations showed that Mary Deya was not in any way related to the infant she claimed to have birthed. The hospital staff soon realized that they had stumbled upon one of the biggest child trafficking cases in the country. Gilbert Juma Deya was born in 1951 to Samuel and Monica Deya. He was the 11th of 15 children. Money was tight in the Deya household. The family lived in a congested house, and the children would often contract waterborne diseases. Gilbert wasn't the brightest of students. He struggled with his education and would end up failing his exams. After 7 years in school, he dropped out. In an interview later on in his life, Deya shared that he experienced a divine encounter with God's Spirit at the age of 10, recalling a moment when a bright light surrounded him, leading him to exclaim that Jesus was coming. In another interview, he said that he was in a small village in Bondo with his mother when he went into a trance and started speaking in tongues. He claimed that his parents took him to a witch doctor, and the witch doctor told them to take him away because he was too powerful. In 1972, 21-year-old Gilbert Deya married 14-year-old Mary Anyango, who he met in Uganda while he was visiting his sister. Gilbert claimed that he was impotent, but he and his wife went on to have children. In an interview, Deya reflected on the poverty of his early life. At the time, he was earning 6 shillings per week as a stone cutter at a quarry in Jiru. This was too low to support his growing family. He stated that their diet would only consist of porridge and ugali. Their limited diet proved to be fatal as their son, Peter, died from malnutrition. Despite dropping out of school, he demonstrated a talent for business, initially selling sweets and bananas. According to him, he became the chairman of Lindi village in Kibera, where he built rental houses and later sold them to buy a matatu. In an interview with The Standard, he described his journey from being a stone cutter to a better paying job as a toilet cleaner at a garment factory in Nairobi's industrial area. After a year, he upgraded from cleaning toilets to becoming an office messenger. He started selling clothes in Ngara as a side hustle. The shop's prime location in a densely populated area with a diverse population of Africans and wealthy Indians made the business a success. Deya's fortunes continued to rise when the garment factory promoted him to a salesman. After getting enough money, he sold the matatu to start a shoe manufacturing company in Kariobangi. During this time, Gilbert Deya was serving as a preacher and was known for organizing large crusades at Uhuru Park. Deya's fortunes took an unexpected turn when his factory experienced a devastating fire, resulting in significant losses. Deya was also facing criticism from fellow pastors who accused him of being uneducated and unordained. He denied this, claiming that he had been consecrated as an archbishop by a US evangelist in 1992. Motivated by what he believed to be God's guidance, Deya decided to sell everything and relocate to Britain. Gilbert Deya Ministries was established in the UK in 1997. The church held services at rented and owned buildings in multiple cities and towns. The church claimed to be the fastest growing ministry in the UK and worldwide. The ministry was able to grow due to the broadcasting of his satellite TV channel, Deya Broadcasting Network.
Let the glory and the power of God touch you wherever you are. In the name of Jesus Christ, I pray for any woman who need a baby, any woman who has got marriage problem and a married with a marriage problem. In Jesus' name, answer this prayer, oh God. Amen.
His televised services caused the ministry to expand its locations in Africa, Asia, and other parts of Europe. He also had a YouTube channel where he posted his sermons and music.
The wonder of nature, the work of your hands is marvelous.
Macharia Gakuru, author of the book Christian Exploitation, Deya and the Miracle Babies, described his brand of religion as a unique combination of traditional African religions and beliefs, peppered with threats of curses, but tempered with exorcism and stirred with Christianity. Gilbert Deya proclaimed that his ministry was popular because they believed in miracles, signs, and wonders.
I have something for people. I have something important for human beings. So I need to be treated as a special gift that Jesus has given favor to reach his people.
Infamously, Deya claimed to use prayer to exorcise demons from women in his ministry who were unable to conceive naturally. The women would then travel to Kenya, and once there, they were allegedly convinced by Mary Deya and her accomplices that they were experiencing labor. They were then made to believe that they had given birth to miracle babies.
I'm carrying miracle babies.
Gilbert Deya and his church allegedly claimed that their prayers defied science and that women they prayed for could give birth to multiple babies in a year. His wife Mary claimed their prayers could make infertile and post-menopausal women pregnant in 4 months and without intercourse. The congregation believed them because couples who had previously been childless were allegedly being paraded on stage, either pregnant or with multiple children. The congregation were then presented with pictures and videos of the women allegedly giving birth. Bishop Deya allegedly declared that British doctors in his congregation had validated the authenticity of these miracle births. This would encourage other desperate couples to join the church so that they too could be blessed with children. One such couple was Michael and Eda Odera. Mr. Odera said his 56-year-old wife gave birth to the first of their miracle babies after Mary Deya prophesied the birth and laid her hand on his wife's stomach. In an interview with Case Files, Mary Deya said that she told Eda that God had spoken to her and revealed that she had been pregnant for 15 years. She said she touched her stomach and Eda soon gave birth to her first miracle baby. After their first child, more miracle babies followed. The Oderas allegedly claimed the Deyas helped Eda conceive every 4 months. Eda allegedly went on to have 13 children in 5 years. According to Bishop Deya, none of Mrs. Odera's subsequent pregnancies had been detected by modern technology. However, not everyone was convinced of their miracle baby claims. Medical professionals and the authorities started to ask questions. In 2004, the controversial pastor gained infamy in the UK when concerns were raised about his conduct in a BBC Radio 4 investigative program, Face the Facts. The program brought attention to a 2004 case where a British coroner determined that a 3-week-old baby who had passed away was not biologically related to either of her supposed parents. The mother, who believed she was unable to conceive, had traveled to Nairobi asserting that she had given birth. However, DNA tests disproved these claims. Later, police discovered that the baby's Kenyan birth certificate was forged. Another woman found herself unable to conceive. Desperate, she sought help from a member of the Deya congregation. Allegedly, Mary Deya took her under her wing, and after several counseling sessions, the woman traveled to Kenya for a second opinion. Upon her return to the UK in October 2003, she had a child. Despite her belief that the child was a miracle baby, a judge in London disagreed. In November 2004, the judge stated that the role of the Deyas was not miraculous but rather simple: financial greed. The child was determined to have no biological connection to the woman. During the court proceedings, it was revealed that the woman had allegedly been physically assaulted and money had changed hands in the process of convincing her of a miraculous birth. As a result, the child was placed in the care of British Social Services as a victim of suspected child trafficking. Tottenham MP David Lammy encountered a husband and wife in his constituency who had experienced a distressing situation. The couple had traveled to Kenya and returned with a child, only for authorities to discover through a DNA test that the child was not biologically theirs. The unfolding situation revealed a case of child trafficking extending beyond Lammy's constituents. It became apparent that several women had traveled to Kenya and returned to the UK, mistakenly believing that the children they brought back were theirs, despite the DNA evidence proving otherwise. Charles and Miriam Nyako, Kenyan citizens living in London, claimed to have had a miracle conception. Mrs. Nyako said she gave birth to her third child, Daniel, in Kenya with help from the Deyas. Her husband, Charles, said the birth was a miracle from God. Gilbert Deya said he had submitted pictures and a videotape of Mrs. Nyako's birth to the British Embassy in Nairobi with an application for travel documents to allow the couple to take their miracle baby back to Britain. However, the embassy refused to issue a passport for the baby until DNA tests were conducted.
Others are in the video, recorded videos.
How sure are you?
100% sure.
Is this from the prayer of Bishop?
Mama Mary. This is preaching the gospel and it's doing what the Bible says. So if they have failed, they mustn't say it's failed because her work is true and it's real.
Kenyan police raided Michael and Eda Odera's house in Donholm and found 11 children aged between 5 months and 12 years. The couple was questioned and DNA tests were conducted. The results showed that the couple had no biological connections to the children. The police then raided Deya's home in Mountain View Estate and found 9 children being held in seclusion. Out of the 9 children, only one was biologically related to Mary Deya. Miriam Nyako and a British woman of Nigerian origin were also investigated.
Tell me what is here. You come
what is it
tell
doing?
me what is here.
She's pregnant.
This is
child
2
was
months
born in
old child
18.
and now I'm pregnant, expecting another child. Can I
You touch.
Can I see?
Is this now stealing?
Is this stealing? Did I
It's your
steal
dad
this?
who's in this idea.
Did I
She
steal this?
delivered.
The Oderas, Mrs. Deya, Mary Nyako, and Rose Kiserem were arrested and charged with stealing babies. They maintained their innocence and were adamant that they had had miracle babies. Miriam Nyako's lawyer made a statement reiterating his client's claims.
If we are believing in the Bible and we can raise it and say that we are believing in it as the truth, then why should these miracle babies not be miracle babies like Jesus was a miracle baby? So the same position is an argument that whereby your faith now is tested.
However, in an interview with Case Files, Professor James Kiari, the head of the gynecology department at Kenyatta Hospital, differed with their claims.
You deliver a miracle baby, you deliver the baby. So you will see signs of delivery.
When asked why the parents and their miracle babies had different DNA, Bishop Deya said he wasn't surprised as they came from God. He said, quote, "The miracle babies which are happening in our ministry are beyond human imagination. It is not something I say I can explain, because they are of God, and things of God cannot be explained by a human being." In the midst of all the chaos, one question was on everyone's mind: where did the babies come from? Women arriving in Kenya to give birth were reportedly taken to unlicensed clinics situated in Nairobi slums to avoid detection. Investigators suspected that these clinics were involved in the theft of newborns. Kenyan police also alleged that several children were sold to Deya by women living in those slums. Child trafficking charity Heart Kenya attributed this to high poverty levels in the slums, where poor local mothers were sometimes willing to give up a child they could not afford to feed. In an attempt to locate the parents of the children, the police asked the public for help. The children were all put in a children's home while investigations went on. The children's faces were broadcast on TV and published on the front page in newspapers. Police spokesperson at the time, Jasper Ombati, reported that several couples identified Pumwani Maternity Hospital in Nairobi, Kenya's biggest public maternity hospital, as a place where their babies vanished. He said that parents had been complaining that their kids disappeared immediately after birth in Pumwani. For instance, out of the 50 couples who turned up to claim their babies, 24 of them said that their babies were born in Pumwani. He said that there were other allegations that Pumwani was involved in these and possibly other child thefts. Stephen Gashingo and his wife believed that baby 14 in the police lineup was their son. They took a DNA test despite failing to identify him during a visit to the orphanage. Their son was only a newborn when he disappeared. Mrs. Gashingo was taken to Pumwani Hospital in May 2000. 3 days after giving birth, Stephen was informed that the child had passed away. However, the baby shown to him did not have the son's distinguishing birthmark, leading Stephen to reject the baby and refuse to take it home for burial. Lucy identified a little boy in a newspaper resembling her son Christopher, who disappeared from their family farm in the Rift Valley in 2000. The Kenyan police found the child at the Odera's home. Upon seeing the newspaper, Lucy and her husband traveled to the Nairobi orphanage where the children were held, successfully picking out the boy. However, when Lucy held the child, he did not recognize her or her husband. Despite the efforts to establish familiarity, the boy couldn't identify them by name, and he stated his name as Jose Odera.
I won't give up the fight because it took us a long time to find him. And after even we found the kid and identified the kid, automatically we saw the kid was ours because the kid resembles the younger sister.
Agnes Njue suspected that one of the boys involved was her son, who was born in 2002. The hospital authorities claimed the baby had died shortly after birth, but despite repeated requests, they failed to produce the newborn's body. Agnes questioned the circumstances, wondering where her baby was. John Donya's son was born in Pumwani in 1998, but a day later he was informed that his son had died. When a nurse showed him the body of a newborn, John instantly rejected it, suspecting foul play. However, due to their financial constraints and distrust of the authorities, the Ndonyas, like many other couples who lost babies at Pumwani at the time, did not have the resources to challenge the situation or report the suspicions to the police.
My prayer was that one day God will just come and show reason to us, since we've been praying for a long time, asking God to just intervene because we don't have the power or the might to bring back Reese. So when we saw the newspaper and also saw the kid there, I just felt happy.
The police started investigating potential connections between Pumwani Hospital and the Deyas. They were also investigating whether the children were to be smuggled out of the country, raising concerns about a child trafficking network. However, the investigation was challenging for the under-equipped and inadequately trained police. Parents who volunteered for DNA tests were assured results within a few days, but faced a prolonged and agonizing wait of around 3 months. Then came the heartbreaking news. Unfortunately, none of the DNA tests from the 53 couples claiming to be the biological parents matched the children in custody. Mary Deya, Miriam Nyeko, Rose Kiserem, and the Oderas were arrested and charged with stealing babies from Pumwani Hospital. They all denied the charges. In May 2007, Mary Deya, Rose Kiserem, and Miriam Nyeko each received 2-year prison sentences for stealing a child. In her judgment, Magistrate Teresa Ngugi said that the actions and claims of miraculous birth deserve no mercy. No amount of sentences can undo the damage done to the life of the child, who may never know who his biological parents are. In 2011, Mary Deya was also found guilty of stealing a baby boy from Kenyatta Hospital back in 2005 and falsely claiming to be the child's mother. Magistrate Grace Nzioka upheld the verdict based on medical evidence that Mary was not the baby's biological parent, sentencing her to 3 years in prison. Mary's first appeal in 2014 was dismissed. Despite launching another appeal in 2015, Mary withdrew it at the last minute after warnings from judges about potential outcomes on her 3-year sentence. Mary accused the police of orchestrating a plot to tarnish her reputation and claimed innocence. She served the remaining sentence and was subsequently released. In 2006, Kenyan authorities issued an arrest warrant for Gilbert Deya. He was wanted on 5 counts of abducting babies, illegally registering them, and trafficking them to the UK. He was also accused of unlawfully obtaining birth certificates, particularly targeting minors with conflicting identities. On September 19th, a principal magistrate's court declared that Deya had a case to answer for 5 counts of stealing children under the age of 14. The alleged crimes occurred in various days between 1999 and 2004 in Nairobi's Mountain View estate. Deya was formally charged in absentia in 2017. The court mandated the televangelist to appear and defend himself. Despite the charges, Deya maintained his stance that the miracle babies were authentic and criticized the authorities in Kenya. However, the state secured an extradition order to bring him from the UK to stand trial in Kenya. Efforts to extradite Gilbert Deya to Kenya stalled for almost 10 years. Deya appealed, arguing that extradition would violate his human rights and expose him to torture or the death penalty in Kenya. His appeal at the High Court failed. Despite this, the Home Office did not follow through with the extradition. Deya remained in the UK throughout the legal proceedings. In 2014, it was alleged that a key issue was the UK's request for Deya to be held in specific, higher standard prison facilities. In the UK, Gilbert Deya and his church faced scrutiny for previous investigations. Deya had been previously investigated by the Church of England for conducting exorcisms on children. He had also been investigated for fraud by the British authorities for allegedly claiming to his congregation that he had a cure for cancer and AIDS. He was also allegedly charging people for miracles. In 2013, he was charged with 3 counts of rape and 1 count of attempted rape on a woman. He was also charged with 1 count of sexual assault on a 14-year-old girl. He was later acquitted of all charges. Despite the controversies, Gilbert Deya Ministries allegedly raised over £10 million in the UK in over a decade, with 90% of the funds coming from donations. Allegedly, its accounts revealed unusual spending patterns, prompting concerns. The England and Wales Charity Commission initiated 2 prior investigations into the ministry but did not shut it down. UK Labour MP David Lammy described Deya as a modern-day snake oil salesman. He expressed concerns about potential undiscovered miracle babies in the UK. Lammy also believed that Deya's freedom might have been influenced by the children's ethnicity. He said, quote, "I think if the kids were white, he would be behind bars. It's outrageous. It should be a much bigger scandal. It is a very worrying tale of modern human trafficking." Finally, in 2017, Home Secretary Theresa May approved Deya's extradition, stating that he had exhausted all appeal avenues under the Extradition Act. Deya was deported from the UK and arrived at Jomo Kenyatta International Airport on August 4, 2017 at 5 a.m., accompanied by UK security personnel. He was under tight security and was taken to Committee Maximum Prison. Upon appearing in court, Deya complained about the poor conditions at Committee Prison, describing the cells as pathetic and unfit for human habitation. He expressed dissatisfaction with not being allowed to leave his cell from 7 p.m. until the next morning and having to use a bucket as a toilet, and the dirty conditions of the single-room cell, including bedbugs in the mattress. Deya's lawyer emphasized that the agreed terms between Britain and Kenya before Deya's deportation specified that if remanded, he should be housed in a special unit at the prison. Despite the plea for bail, the court ruled for Deya to remain in custody as the hearing of the case continued. After spending 9 months at Committee Prison, Gilbert Deya was released in 2018 on a 10 million shilling bond due to the prosecution's failure to complete the trial on time. In his ruling, Justice Kimaro emphasized the need for strict conditions to prevent the accused from absconding, considering Deya's history of such behavior and disrespect for the courts. The terms required Deya to report to Muthaiga police station every week and deposit his travel documents in court. During the trial, the prosecution claimed that Gilbert Deya's miracle babies were part of an international baby snatching ring, possibly connected to disappearances from hospitals in Nairobi. However, Deya testified, asserting that he did not even know the children he was accused of stealing. Deya's lawyer emphasized in court that the prosecution had the responsibility to provide substantial evidence, especially considering the significant resources used to extradite him from the UK. During re-examination by his lawyer, Deya testified that the prosecution failed to present the alleged stolen children or their parents as evidence to substantiate the criminal case. He expressed his desire to know the identities of the children involved, emphasizing that as far as he was concerned, the names were fictitious. On July 17, 2023, Gilbert Deya was acquitted by Milimani Senior Principal Magistrate Robinson Ondieki. In his ruling, the magistrate said that none of the 5 children were found in Deya's custody. He added that Deya did not participate in child stealing, as the alleged crime, dating back to 2004, was deemed impossible for him to commit, as he was in the United Kingdom at that time. Additionally, the magistrate highlighted the prosecution's failure to present sufficient evidence linking the televangelist to the criminal charges. He noted that despite Deya's wife, Mary Juma, facing a similar offense, she was also acquitted by a Kibera court. Gilbert Deya excitedly thanked the court for the ruling. His supporters cheered as he addressed reporters outside the court, saying that he had forgiven those who had wanted to see him in jail, adding that it was sad that he had been labeled as a child stealer. Despite the challenges, he expressed gratitude for his freedom and affirmed his commitment to continue the mission given to him by Jesus on earth. He even hinted at the possibility of seeking a return to the UK. Gilbert Deya divorced his wife Mary. In an interview, he said his Gilbert Deya Ministries in Britain remained intact under the stewardship of his son. He said he believed God used the mess to bring him back home because he had sworn never to return to Kenya. According to an article by The Nation, Rose Kiserem, who was jailed along with Mary Deya, was a former pastor with Deya's ministry, and upon her release from jail, she confessed that the miracle babies were a hoax created by Deya and his accomplices to deceive God-fearing people. But what about the children, the real victims of this story? For over a decade, the inability of British and Kenyan law enforcement to make progress in the Deya's case left the children placed in a children's home in limbo. According to Kenyan law, they couldn't be adopted or moved from care homes until Deya's extradition and case resolution. As I had mentioned earlier, over 50 families initially claimed their babies had been stolen, but DNA tests did not match any of the parents to the children found at the Deya and Odera properties. In an anonymous interview with a humanitarian news agency, one of the staff members of the children's home said, quote, "When they were brought here, they were between the ages of 6 months and 2.5 years. That was back in 2004. Although the children have been in safe custody and attended good schools, many of them have now surpassed the age where they might be adopted." In 2016, Vice News tracked down 13 of the kids at the children's home, where they lived under the care of staff members who have acted as their de facto parents. The children allegedly dropped their Deya and Odera surnames and received birth certificates with new names they chose for themselves. She said, quote, "They were born with an identity and became nobodies. Their families should have been found. It was never established where these children are from." The home manager said that the children are aware of their background. The home aims to support them through high school and college, relying on donations for their well-being. Despite lacking a genetic link, the children consider each other siblings in their adopted family and live in a caring environment. And while content, the mystery of their true identities remains unsolved. Thank you so much for watching. I'm curious to know if you've heard about this case before. I would like to hear your thoughts, so feel free to leave your comments. I haven't been able to find the definitive sentencing details for the Oderas, but when I do, I'll give an update. I'm sure they were found guilty, but I don't know how long they were sentenced to prison. Also, I think this is a very sad story for both the parents who lost their babies and the children who are essentially failed by the system. I'm very sad that this case ended like this, and the victims deserved so much better. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. I'm also on Spotify and TikTok as True Crime Africa. If you'd like to match the voice to a face, you can also follow me on Instagram and Twitter, both of which are Faith W. Njoroge. See you next time. Bye.